Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Business in the Bowl podcast. I'm your host, Amara Siwara, and today we are going to be sitting down with Tim Scales and talking all about American Underground, the startup hub for tech companies in Durham. So if this interests you, make sure you grab a snack, a drink, water, whatever it may be, and sit down and get ready for this episode because we are going to dive in all into the tech economy in Durham. All right, let's get straight into today's episode. So, as we know, American Underground is kind of a house for startup businesses in Durham, and it allows startup businesses to be able to grow and kind of start and have a community. But can you kind of go into detail and explain what inspired the creation of American Underground?
Sure. Yeah, so the American Underground has been in downtown Durham since 2010. It was founded in a basement of the American Tobacco campus, which was renovated in the late 90s, opened up and rapidly filled up with commercial and real estate and other tenants. And then they had this leftover basement, and they weren't totally sure what to do with it. And at the same time, Durham was going through a change in from tobacco and manufacturing to a newer high-tech economy. And there were the beginnings of a startup community in Durham. But there was no one place where founders and funders and people running startup programs could congregate and could meet each other. And so the idea was to create that space in this basement of the American Tobacco campus, a place that would otherwise be kind of underused, just as a hypothesis of like, if we create this, can we pull together these people? And so originally it was a home for startup incubator programs. So programs that would help startups go from idea to launch and to scale. And then very quickly also became a home for those startups, for funders. And then after a few years, outgrew that basement and opened up locations on Main Street and has been growing ever since.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that overview, Tim. And next, can you provide an overview of the services and resources that are offered by American Underground for different, whether it's businesses or funders or just anyone looking to get into this tech industry in Durham?
Yeah, so we call ourselves a few different things. We call ourselves a startup hub, a community of entrepreneurs, Durham's home for innovators, creators, and change makers. And all of those mean different things. On one level, we are a co-working space. So we have buildings, we have offices within those buildings that we rent out. We have shared spaces for co-working and meeting rooms and rooms like the one that I'm in right now, which is a creator studio and photo studios and things like that that are shared across the community. And so that's how we make our money. We have these buildings, we rent them out, we sell memberships, and then that funds the ability to build the community. And so the business model underwrites the mission of the AU, which is to create this sense of community and access to resources for entrepreneurs in Durham and the Triangle. So we run a handful of programs ourselves. We run the Black Founders Exchange in partnership with Google for Startups for about 8 years now. We run other programs, one called Idea to Entrepreneur, which is to help folks who have an idea decide over a couple months if their idea is worth investing their time in, whether they maybe want to quit their job and pursue it, or maybe they want to wait for the next idea or something in between. Those are larger scale programs. We also run a lot of events throughout the week that are geared towards connecting people. And we have a hypothesis that it's really important for people to connect as human beings within the AU community. It's one thing for entrepreneurs to come together in a networking environment and say, like, everything's going great. There's maybe some sharing, but there's no real connection. And so we provide opportunities for people to let their guard down a little, to be a little vulnerable, to actually share what's working, but also what's not working, because that's how you really create a human connection and find opportunities to help and collaborate and really grow the sense of connection in the community and the broader network.
All right, I really like that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate how they offer a space where they allow entrepreneurs to let their guard down because in a lot of networking areas like you mentioned, a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, things are going great, things are going amazing," but that may not be how like a true reflection of how it is. So the fact that you guys have a space where you can kind of let your guard down and be able to really, share how things are truly going and be able to collaborate is what makes American Underground so special. And though you've already kind of talked about what makes American Underground so special, What sets it apart from other startup incubators or accelerates it, and what makes it like even more special than like other places for startups?
Yeah, I have. So I was a member of the American Underground first. I had my own startup, and it was my first time trying to build a tech startup. I had no idea what I was doing. I got some guidance from another program, and that program placed me at the American Underground for a couple of months. And I suddenly realized what it was like to go from building a startup by yourself to building a startup or any kind of business or launching anything new, surrounded by people that really get it. So when I was building by myself, I was doing a lot of Googling things or talking to my friends and family who didn't really know what it was like to be an entrepreneur or what entrepreneurs should do, trying to figure out if my idea was worth pursuing. And like my family would be like, great, that's amazing. You're doing such a good job. And I'd be like, great, I'm doing well, which is, very kind of them to say, but they had no idea. And it wasn't until I was in a community of entrepreneurs where I could ask not just like, what do you think of this? But like, am I doing the right thing? Or I'm facing this problem and I really need someone who's faced this before to guide me through this couple of steps. And I was able to find those really easily. And that as an entrepreneur felt really special. So all of a sudden I would go from Googling something to asking a question of a real human who could sit down with me, maybe just 15 minutes and change the course of my day in a really meaningful way. Um, and I think one of the things that facilitates that is that there's currently about 240 companies that are part of the AU. About 1,000 people work locally for those companies. And within that, there's a huge diversity of people and businesses and industries and business models and skill sets and expertise and all the things that make up a complex network. So it's not that we're really good at one thing or we're really good at helping people who are trying to build web apps build web apps. We're really good at creating a broad network where if you have a question, it's likely that you can find the answer within our network. And that breadth and that diversity has been a really special asset to the AU community over the years.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially when I've gone to American Underground and I've taken my own visits and talked to people there. I can definitely see how that plays a role and it helps shape the community. And you can see it like in real time when you're there and how people interact with each other and are able to help with each other. And that
Mhm.
kind of leads into my next question. What role does mentorship play in the support offered by American Underground?
It plays a big deal. And there's lots of different forms of mentorship within that. We do some one-on-one mentor matching, where if there's someone who has a specific challenge, then we'll help connect them with someone who's done that before. And maybe they'll have one conversation, or maybe they'll have a series of conversations over a number of months. Maybe it'll grow into a more formal business relationship, or maybe it'll stay pretty casual. Sometimes mentorship happens in really casual environments too. Like folks will be up on the rooftop playing ping pong and just talking about business, and all of a sudden it is becomes sort of an opportunity to share some wisdom and some expertise in a mentorship approach. And then anytime we run a program, we build mentorship into that very carefully to create opportunities for people to sit down with those others who really have a keen insight into their industry or their business and can help them not just take small steps forward, but maybe take a big leap forward through that expertise. So yeah, I think it's critical. I think the entrepreneurs who are most successful are those that are open to mentorship and actively seek it out. And when they have the opportunity, they really listen and they take the ideas to heart. They don't necessarily have to believe everything, but they have to believe in the goodwill and the expertise of the folks that they're talking to and weigh what makes sense and how they want to use that. But that ability is really important for an entrepreneur to hear and listen and synthesize the data and then make decisions from there.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I really agree with the stuff that you're saying. Again, mentorship does play a key role in entrepreneurship. When I started my own little businesses that I had when I was younger, just like you said, when you started yours, your family would always tell you, like, oh, you're doing great. But it really is different to be able to talk with an entrepreneur like in your field and someone like who knows the type of business that you're trying to start in that industry to be able to help guide you along the way. So that's something that's very valuable as entrepreneurs. And it's something that I'm grateful that the American Underground space has, especially like I said, because I've been there and I've been able to see that the role it plays in people's lives, and I've been in some of the events. It's very helpful to the other people in the community. But as you mentioned earlier, the American Underground does offer spaces for businesses of all different industries and sectors. So I wanted to ask, how does the American Underground kind of contribute to the job creation and the economic growth in Durham of these like various different sectors and industries?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's something that we have tried to measure and keep track of over the years. We do an annual survey of our membership and ask them a few questions about if they have created new jobs, if they've hired people locally, if they have raised funding for their business from loans or venture capital, if they've spent money in the community around the AU. And those are all important metrics in different ways. I think the last count was something over 4,000 jobs have been created by AU members over the past 10 years that we've been doing this survey. Some of those, the majority of those are local, some of those are distributed across the country. But we lean into the idea that a lot of the majority of job growth in this country is coming from new businesses, small businesses who are making investments in growth, and we try to support that along the way. And the spending in the community is really interesting too, because people come to the AU, it's a physical space, it's embedded in downtown Durham. We've got a couple dozen restaurants and shops and bars within a few blocks of here. And AU members have spent millions of dollars at those other local small businesses over the years as well, and really been a key driver in those businesses' success. So AU businesses are creating jobs, they're also supporting jobs downtown and supporting the vibrancy of downtown Durham as well. Sometimes there'll be a company that does extremely well in the AU and will raise a bunch of money or get bought for a large amount of money, and that funnels resources back into the community. But a lot of AU member companies just build really solid, profitable businesses that are solving a problem or supporting a mission and creating stable jobs in the community that are for people that really want to make a difference as well. So there's a lot of different ways in which economic development is a key part of our mission and one that we think a lot about.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer once again. And you kind of started to talk about in your answer about like how businesses were able to raise funding for their startups. So can you go into more detail about how American Underground helps startups access funding and investment opportunities?
Yeah, we again, it's through not necessarily providing resources ourselves, but providing connections to resources that are in the community or nationally. So on the tech startup side of our community, we think about how we can connect those individuals to venture capitalists or others who can provide that growth funding. Our membership has raised in total, try to remember the right number, over $500 million venture capital funding over the past 10 years has been raised by AU member companies. And so that's meaningful access to resources there. We have some VC firms that are actually based at the AU, others that come and go or come in for office hours. We have some folks in banking who make loans to small businesses or startups who are part of the AU community as well. And we have a mission to also share the stories of the startups that are part of the AU and share the stories of the small businesses. And that exposure is also really important when a business is trying to raise money or take the next step. If they can point back to a news article or some other validation of what they're doing, that helps lend credibility, and the exposure can really help them raise their profile as well.
All right. Thank you so much again for going more into detail. And our last question of the day really is, how does American Underground contribute to the overall innovative ecosystem of Durham? And I know you've kind of shared like different ways and like bits and pieces again, but like how can you like wrap it up kind of in how it contributes?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things we call ourselves to add to the growing list is the front door to the Triangle startup ecosystem. And the idea is that for someone who is either new to Durham or new to entrepreneurship, it's really hard to know where to start. And so if you show up at the AU, our mission is not just to sell you on a co-working membership, but it's to welcome you in, to find out what you're working on, what you do well, what you're struggling with, who would be a good person to talk to, what partners we have outside the AU who may be able to offer resources or programming or mentorship, and ensure that those first few steps that you take after entering the AU will put you further down the path than you would have otherwise. And that then has a ripple effect outside the AU. So we are helping funnel entrepreneurs to other institutions that are running programs or have opportunities for funders. We're bringing in groups like student groups or college, or we work with folks in the city or folks in larger companies in Durham to connect with entrepreneurial people within those institutions as well. And so the idea is that you connect with the AU, and then you all of a sudden find this wider network of opportunities outside. And so that is the mission that we serve within Durham.
All right. Thank you so much once again for your time and being able to expand about and give more information about American Underground, and also like share and for your work also. And because you're helping to create that ripple effect with the American Underground, and all the work that you're doing here with this company is helping other startup owners, not only in the Triangle, but also, like you said, it's a ripple effect. So some of these jobs may be created like all across the nation and stuff like that. So the work that you're doing is really important, and it's also very helpful to many small business owners across our local community of Durham, and not just locally, but also nationally. So I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you're doing. It's very appreciated, and I really admire it. So thank you for talking with me today.
Of course, thank you for the opportunity. It was great to connect.
Great to connect. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Spotify, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!